everybody. Before we jump into today's episode, we have two sponsors we want to say thank you to for supporting this show. The first one is Routine. You guys have heard me talk about Routine, honestly, back from the early days of the podcast, and it's still a product I use every single morning. They have a prompt for me here. I'm going to do a little impromptu on this ad read today because honestly, this is a product that I truly believe in. And so I'm just going to tell you guys exactly what I think and why. First and foremost, this is a stat that they shared, but when you sleep, you lose between a pound and a pound and a half of water. And most of that's just sweating while you sleep. I used to not know if that was actually true, to be honest. I felt like a pound to a pound and a half of water seemed like quite a bit while I slept. But the one thing I did constantly pay attention to when I started using Routine was just the fact that before using Routine, I always felt a little dehydrated in the morning. And I'm one of those people that when I get up really early usually. I work out. One of the first things I do is some form of fitness. It's just like what I do before everyone's awake. And so it's very easy for me to grab a coffee, pre-workout, an energy drink, something with caffeine in it, and just go. When I am good about using Routine, first, I basically they come in these little single serve packets. They contain half an organic lemon, a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, Himalayan sea salt, all 6 essential electrolytes, and they have no sugar in them at all. A lot of hydration products are going to have sugar. So one of the things about Routine that I love is that there's no sugar in there. So when I am good about doing this consistently, I will take one of those single serve packets, I'll throw it in my mixer bottle, and whether I also put in a pre-workout or something with caffeine or I just drink that separately, I try to drink that first. And the days I do that, I do genuinely feel hydrated and just have a different form of clarity all morning. A lot of people have tried to make their own homemade versions of Routine, right? You see people they take a shot of the apple cider vinegar, they put a little sea salt, a little lemon in a drink. This is essentially that, but in a product that you can take with you on the go, have it ready for you first thing in the morning. I know me personally, when I'm groggy rolling out of bed, the last thing I want to do is, squeeze a lemon, cut lemons up, go get the apple cider vinegar, find my sea salt. I just rip this packet open, throw it in my water, drink it, and it's good to go. You can try yours today. If you haven't tried it yet and you've been listening to this podcast for years, just try the damn Routine. Give it a shot. You can use code ShaneWhite30 and get 30% off your first order. So you get 30% off by using code ShaneWhite30 and go to yourroutine.com. To make it even easier, I've added the link to yourroutine.com in the show notes. So just click on the show notes for this episode, click on the link to yourroutine.com, and don't forget to use code ShaneWhite30. All right, guys, today's episode is also brought to you by NeuroRoast. Again, I'm going to go a little off script here. NeuroRoast is a product that I also came across during this year of 2023. They are a coffee company that's helping you optimize your brain function and overall well-being. This is another product that, to be honest with you, when I first started working with it, I was a little on the fence. I was like, do I really want to have mushrooms in my coffee? Well, folks, I will tell you, when I use NeuroRoast, one of the things that has stood out to me the most is I'll back up. People that know me know that I have way too much caffeine, typically. One of the things this year I've done a good job of is cutting out alcohol. Not completely, but predominantly, I don't touch a lot of alcohol anymore. What I think I've actually done the other way, though, is added a lot more caffeine. So I do definitely drink too much caffeine. That's something I need to work on next year, is to try to minimize how much of that. But NeuroRoast is something that has actually helped me. Because of the way they've formulated their coffee, like unlike regular coffee, which is, still something I consume, but NeuroRoast specifically doesn't cause jitters or crashes. Mushroom coffee provides more balance and sustained energy, allowing you to stay focused and productive throughout the day. So the times I do use NeuroRoast, I'll be honest, I just don't feel that jittery, like, I'm jumping out of my chair or standing here at my desk, jumping around feeling. So give NeuroRoast a try. They have some really good flavors. I'll be honest too, the two guys that started NeuroRoast are just really good dudes based out of New York, and they're hustling, and hopefully they can get some people to try NeuroRoast this holiday season by listening to this podcast. So for you folks who've been on the fence, I'm telling you, it tastes delicious. They've done a fantastic job of making this coffee not only be functional, but taste fantastic. And if you want to try NeuroRoast, you can use code ShaneWhite. So it's super simple, just ShaneWhite at checkout. you'll also get 30% off. So if you go to neuroroast.com, and once again, I have added that to the show notes. So just click into the show notes while you're listening to this episode. You can click on NeuroRoast link directly. Don't forget to use code just Shane White, and you'll get 30% off your order. Hope you guys love both these products. I'm trying to not only bring you guys products that I use, but that I believe in on the podcast. I'm not taking ad reads for any brands that I don't really believe in. So anyway, hope you guys love both those products, yourroutine.com and neuroroast.com. I've added those links to the show notes. Hope you guys love it. And I got an awesome guest coming up right after this. Today to have Betty Lou from Confetti Snacks on the podcast. Betty, welcome to the show.
Hi, Shane. Lovely to be here.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it. For everyone who's listening who doesn't know you, doesn't know the brand, would you mind just giving everyone a quick intro to you and your brand and your products?
Yeah, absolutely. So I come from a very small island nation of Singapore. I started this from inspired by a world trip that I did. I traveled to more than 50 countries in a span of about 4 years. I globetrotted around. Being Singaporean, I'm really obsessed with food. The food culture in Singapore is amazing. There's so many different cultures and cuisines. And I really wanted to create a company that has a very strong impact. Using the inspiration that I had from traveling around the world, I decided to start Confetti, something that is delicious, healthy, at the same time, really focuses on fighting food waste and hunger and leaving a true impact on the environment and the community.
Nice. Love that. Okay. So there's a lot more to it than just the product itself. I always love that. How did you come up with the initial offering, what I would call, the mushroom chips, the veggie chips? What made you want to start selling those? Was it something you grew up enjoying, or how did you get into those products?
Yeah, so I was actually hiking in British Columbia, Canada, and I was really struggling to find a perfect snack that I could bring up the mountains with me. I'm a huge outdoors person. I love hiking, mountain climbing, paragliding, scuba diving.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so I was really trying to look for a perfect snack. You have protein bars that taste like chalk or quite bland. They usually have a lot of like stevia, which has a very weird aftertaste to me. I'm a super taster, so I do taste that aftertaste a lot. So it's quite off-putting. Then I really hate potato chips. It gives me a very bad sore throat, and it's also carcinogenic because it's deep fried with a lot of oil. So I wanted to really set off and design the perfect snack that I could indulge as much as I wanted without feeling guilty about it. Then I also noticed that there's a lot of food waste in this world. Nearly 2.9 trillion pounds of ugly produce or crop surpluses get thrown away every year because they can't be sold in time. So what if I could take that, bake them to crunchy perfection, and then season them with award-winning flavors from around the world to celebrate diversity and inclusion? And that's how, I started on the drawing board with that. Started making experiments in my own kitchen in Canada and shared it with neighbors and friends. So everyone loved it and told me that, if this was in a supermarket, I would buy it. And that answered my billion-dollar question on like whether I should start this company at all. So I took this, stopped my world trip, got back to to Singapore, my home country. I pitched the Singapore government, who gave me the first check to start this company, the MVP. As we scaled, we got more venture capitalists and angels into the round. And right now we are in about 3,800 stores across US, Europe, Singapore.
Wow, very good. So I didn't realize that part of it. That's a lot more doors than I realized you were in, Betty. That's awesome. Good for you. Congratulations. Did you have a background in food, CPG, before you started this?
So I, my first job officially is actually like an entrepreneur. So,
Okay.
as an intern, I worked for so my major is in business marketing. And, I've always been very passionate about brands, scaling them, creating something up from scratch is really fun for me. So after I graduated from university, I decided my first endeavor would be, just to take a leap of faith, start a snack brand and see how far it takes me. And then I've been very grateful to have a really strong team, of people who have built brands such as Honesty, Oatly, Vita Coco, and Vitamin Water, so that they can really pave the way and just show me what are the, trials and tribulations these brands have encountered when building something from scratch. And there's a lot of learnings there. And I think like the best way to, figure out how to launch a brand is really to learn from the best, people who have done it before.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Did you, when you jumped in and decided to go back to Singapore to launch this product, did you know at that point that you wanted to raise capital to get it off the ground? I always find that such an interesting part of a story is there's usually, founders that move fast. Like it sounds like you've been moving, Betty. It's usually one of two ways. It's either, bootstrap and you figure it out quick, or you go raise capital and you scale it really quick. So it sounded like you did the latter. How did you decide that? Did you think through that and come up with something right out the gate that made you want to go that route?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, I am a millennial and this is my first company. There's a lot
Hmm.
of things I don't know, and there are things, I don't know that I don't know yet. It's very important to get strategics because they actually reduce the risk. I would say to answer your question, I am both. I raise venture and, funding from the government. But at the same time, I bootstrap like crazy. So the
Hmm.
first, few years, I didn't pay myself a salary. I was just living on oxygen and chips. So it's just really, even though I raised this funding, but, I couldn't raise a lot because I'm a first time entrepreneur. I just raised enough to launch this product in Singapore, prove, some traction. And Singapore is, is a very considered choice because it's a very small market. To prove the concept is quite easy to do in a small place versus a very big market like US. So I
Mm-hmm.
just wanted to prove it out and see whether people would purchase this thing. Is there stickiness in the market? So we started here. We got into most of the supermarket chains, five-star hotels in Singapore. We even supplied to Singapore Stock Exchange and the Singapore government offices. And people loved it. They keep coming back to buy, and there's a ton of repeat purchases. And once I know that I have a case study that is flying in one market, then I start thinking of like what is the next market I can launch in so that we can get a lot more growth. So, US is the largest snack market in the world. It's also the largest consumer market with a very strong disposable income. And they also, really obsessed with food, different cultures. They're very adventurous in their palates, and they love, sustainable concepts that are better for you and the environment. They are also very in love with plant-based snacks. So I
Mm-hmm.
just felt like that was the next natural progression after Singapore, and we have tested it and had a good foundation. How can we migrate the same business model and expand it to US and also Europe?
So yeah, and you don't hear of a lot of brands today doing that as fast as it sounds like you have. What were some of the big considerations when launching in the US? Were there major things that you had to figure out? I'm sure there had to have been some enormous hurdles to go from a Singapore-based business to a US-based business.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that the geography is so much bigger. The cost of doing business is higher, the cost of labor is really high. Trucking and everything is across such larger distances. Like Singapore is a tiny, tiny country. You get from one end to the other in like half an hour by driving. It's
Yeah.
probably even smaller than Manhattan. In US, is so much bigger, and we know we had to pivot our model a bit. We need to use strong distributors like UNFI, KE, US Foods, Gordon Food Service, to really scale us a lot faster. Using their infrastructure, their trucks, we can get from point A to point B in a more efficient way without killing our margins. Margins are so important. And I think that the biggest way to overcome these challenges is really to show the buyers and distributors that we have a very differentiated product. The USPs are very strong. Not only is it tasty, Michelin Guide featured. We are the first veggie chip to have launched and been featured on the Michelin Guide. We have also won, the first prize in Snack Tank in Dallas recently, judged by Damien John, the founder of Fubu.
Nice.
Yeah, and we, it's, as a Singaporean brand, to beat out thousands of other US snack companies, it is a huge accolade. And,
Yeah.
yeah, and to be featured on Harvard Business Review as a case study. And the way we wanted to position ourselves is that, what are the competitors doing? 95% of them are potato chips. They're all one color. Everything is extruded puffs or deep fried potato chips. It's all nutritionally bankrupt. So how can we change that? By using like real veggies. They are colorful, like carrots, radishes, mushrooms, okra, all this amazing kaleidoscope of colors and textures, naturally inherent by Mother Nature. And then on top of that, further differentiate ourselves by using very exotic, flavors that allows people to travel using their palates and taste buds and like, really explore different cuisines around the world. I think that would be like selling permissible indulgence, like something that is so tasty and delicious, but you don't feel guilty eating it. And you do know that you're fighting food waste and hunger with every purchase of confetti that they make.
That's amazing. Yeah. And what would you say, to the average US consumer, what does the product taste like? Like what would you compare it to, to someone who maybe is like, I've only had potato chips and almonds. What does confetti taste like?
It's so much better. I have no idea why, potato chips are such a staple in American household. Like this tastes like lighter, crunchier, tastier, very savory and indulgent. And on top of that, we use very authentic recipes from different parts of the world. So we have like summer truffle inspired by Italy, tandoori from India, green curry from Thailand, teriyaki barbecue from Japan. And the nuances of flavors and the complexities of these palettes are very strong. Like, a Thai green curry is not just a Thai green curry. There's so many like top, middle, base notes, hundreds of different spices, crushed herbs, lemongrass that goes into it. To make a full-bodied Thai green curry is complex. It's a complex flavor, and that enhances the natural, amazing taste of a shiitake mushroom or an okra. And we really want to elevate that. And like, how can we bring that gourmet snacking experience by working with the best food technologists, award-winning James Beard chefs, flavor houses to really curate the best tasting snacks. So it's tasting so much better than a potato chip, but yet, it's good for you and you don't feel guilty eating it after.
Got it. That's a fantastic overview. And where are you guys currently located? You said 3,800 doors. What are some of the big ones in the US that people listening to today could go try and get it?
Yeah, so we launched in Walmart nationwide. We are also in about 2,000 home goods locations, TJX, Europe. We are in a lot of specialty stores and also launching in anchor accounts such as Heinen's, Festival Foods, Market of Choice. We are in Shell gas stations and also luxury hotels like JW Marriott, Hilton Group, Mandarin Oriental. We supplied to F1 Grand Prix. And Dennis Quaid was a huge fan of the snacks. He featured us on his documentary called The Next Great American Snack. It's very
cool.
unique. Yeah, and these are real veggies. When you're eating something, it's like, wow, this is a real vegetable. We don't extrude it, we don't mix it and mash it and extrude it to something else. This is a real vegetable that is sliced. So people can actually see the wholesome nature of the produce that we use.
Okay,
Kids are fascinated by it. They are like, wow, what is this? And then the parent tells them, oh, this is an okra or this is a mushroom. And they are like, I've never imagined that it could taste this way. Yeah, and
that was my thought, Betty. To be honest with you, like I was excited to talk to you today because I'm on my other screen over here. I'm glancing just at your website and I'm envisioning like every bite because it's different fruits and vegetables really in the product. I'm envisioning like everything tastes slightly different. Is that accurate when you're eating it? Like when you're going through the bag, are you tasting different things with every chip?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you taste like a truffle radish, for example, the truffle notes enhance the taste of the vegetable, but different vegetable taste different, but they are enhanced because of the truffle, for example. So it becomes like a very sinful, indulgent experience. And it's fun for them, it's like escaping the ordinary. You're not going for the normal like sour cream and dill or a sea salt potato chip. It's something very different. And I think it's a lot of fun for them to taste it, especially kids, and they are so uh, amazed by how good a vegetable can taste. And that's our end goal, to seduce the consumer, get them to fall in love with vegetables and fruit in such a way that they wouldn't ever go back to, eating a junk snack again.
And and I'm sorry, I'm so curious as we're talking through this. How is it cooked? How is it turned into the form factor that it is when you eat it? Is it like is it fried, baked? How's it made?
Yeah. Great question. So what we do is that we take the ugly or imperfect produce or surpluses from the farms that they can't sell in time. Produce have a shelf life of less than a week, and then they rot in a landfill and contribute to global warming by releasing a lot of methane as they decompose. So to fight food waste and to become like carbon neutral, we take tons of these products and we slice them up, bake
Mm.
them to crunchy perfection before we season them. And then we are also playing around with different patented technologies. Like we are the first Mandarin chip to launch in US. It's completely fat free. All we do is a rapid dehydration process where we remove all the moisture,
Mm.
and it gets a 12-month shelf life, ambient temperature, is very shippable. At the same time, all the nutrients and vitamin C is locked inherent from the mandarins that we use. So, you could have your cake and eat it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I do
yeah.
feel like, how can we actually experiment with exotic fruits and vegetables and create a really outstanding, surreal experience for the consumers to fall in love with produce?
Very cool. Yeah, it seems like I have two little kids,
Oh,
and
you do?
one of them I feel like my 18-month-old, I feel like he would love this because he'd see it and the colors would he'd gravitate to. It's such a smart idea, Betty, because it really does it allows you to get people to try a product that if it wasn't in a chip form factor, they probably might not give this a chance, right? Like they don't eat those types of foods. But the way
Mm.
you're bringing it about, it's much more enticing and welcoming to, I would argue, like the average consumer who maybe doesn't eat enough vegetables to try something like confetti.
Yeah, absolutely. You're so spot on that. And marketing to families and children is a good business strategy as well, because you capture the whole lifespan of a consumer. If
Mm-hmm.
they
Mm-hmm.
already start loving and developing a palate for vegetables at a young age, they carry that memory into adulthood and you get a longer lifespan of the consumer. The same way as, Milo or Mars or Nestle, they target children very young. So as they grow into adulthood, that brand feels familiar to them in terms of
Mm.
positioning. And
Yeah.
I think our biggest partnership this year is with Disney. Everyone loves Mickey Mouse. So if we can use Mickey, as you see on the screen here, on a hot air balloon to travel to different cuisines and cultures of the world, and really to get kids to fall in love with veggies and, adults as well. So in that way, we make it really fun. I think our biggest hurdle as a startup, I only moved and migrated to San Francisco 1 year ago last summer.
Oh, wow. Good for
It's a
you.
brand new market. Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And I do feel like, if you have someone that's familiar, like a brand equity that has already been established for 100 years, like Mickey Mouse, can we use the brand credibility of a icon and have that translated onto your brand? I think that would be very helpful and get people out there. You see here Mickey on a surfboard. Can we make it not only adventurous to try different cuisines and be accepting of different cultures around the world, but at the same time, to promote them getting out there and doing something fun, not being stuck behind a screen, but to experience outdoor adventures as well.
No, I love that. I love that. Are you guys going to be available at like Disney parks? Or are you guys doing it more so just with like brand recognition in retail? You're going to have like Disney branded items.
Yeah, I think the biggest target for this is grocery, and then of
Mm-hmm.
course on Amazon as well. And I think it will be very friendly for places like, Whole Foods and Walmart and Target and, Costco, where people buy for the whole family for the whole week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think
yeah,
those
for
would be
sure.
great places. And if we can get to Disneyland and Disney cruises, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Fantastic.
Mm,
Well, congratulations. That's really, really cool.
thank
Um,
you.
what is the next, that's kind of where you are today. What is the next 12 months? And this is always a hard question to answer because you're in startup mode and things are changing every day. But
Mm.
what really for you guys is the major goals for the next 12 months, next, all the way to like 3 years? Are you guys trying to basically expand across the US? Are you trying to go into more international markets? I'd love to know for everyone listening, just like what's the big North Star strategies for Betty and Confetti Snacks right now?
Yeah, our growth has really been explosive. When I first got to US, I was like, oh my God, these flavors are so exotic. Is it going to alienate, the people who just like meat and potatoes?
Sure.
And I'm just like, what if they still prefer their potato chips and their normal Western flavors that are Americanized? And then, I also felt like this was a very big risk for us. We are launching here, we haven't tested the market yet. And we're like, how are these people gonna, how receptive are they gonna be on such a strange palette? But the thing is, I think that the market spoke for itself, and we sold out all the inventory in Walmart within like 2 weeks, and then we got like 25 more POs. And I
Wow.
feel like the fact that we are so strange and different did work to our advantage, because there's literally 1,000 snack brands out there, and it's precisely because we are so different. That's why we managed to secure the market, the shelf space in the first place. And then people are just so curious to know what it tastes like, and once they taste it, they tell all their friends like, wow, have you tried this? And then it started spreading organically from there. And then on top of that, I do feel like my next year's goal is really to expand to 10,000 locations, point of sale
Wow.
locations. We are going to close the Series A this year, and we are gathering very strong VCs to support the growth. Like I said before, I could do it very slowly as well, bootstrap the whole way and grow really slowly. But my end goal is really to IPO this company on NYSE.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Really?
you know,
Good for
yeah, in
you.
the next before I turn 40. So I really want to like stand on the podium with this family, ring the bell, see confetti come down, and the ticker CONF behind us.
Yeah. Oh, you already got the ticker and everything. Love it.
Yeah, I think yeah, I imagine that every day when I wake up in the morning, like to see
Okay.
confetti come down,
Yeah.
everyone is
Yeah.
on the podium, we are ringing the bell at the start
You,
of the day
you're
in New York.
manifesting it. I love that.
Yeah.
I totally love that stuff. Okay. Very cool. And you
Mm.
said before you're 40. So how many years do you have to do this?
The next 4 years.
Okay. All right. So we got 4 years. I love it. Well,
Yes.
hopefully this podcast helps a little bit.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think we need to, like, we need to kind of go an inch wide and a mile deep, in the sense that it's not possible for any brand to be, everything to everyone. Like, we need to choose our battles.
Hmm.
If we focus on like 5 anchor accounts this year, like, Costco, Whole Foods, Walmart, say, you know, Kroger and Albertsons, if we really target the ones that we think is going to have very strong velocities, and then we keep driving channel penetrations, activating very strong in-store execution, perhaps working with Shane on, driving a very strong e-commerce strategy.
I was about to say, well, hold on a minute. Amazon's got to fit into this top five. I'm gonna. You're already bullish, but I'm gonna work you on thinking Amazon's gonna be one of your top.
Yeah, absolutely. And the best part is that after the pandemic, everyone is going back to the office. So
Yeah.
one of our biggest clients is actually, Netflix pantries. So we supply to all the Netflix pantries for thousands of staff every day.
Oh,
And then
cool.
there's so many other tech companies here in Silicon Valley, like Meta and Uber and, Instagram. So if we can supply to millions of employees and their bosses pay for it,
Hmm.
it's actually a lot better margin, because you don't have intermediary taking away margins. There's no slotting fees. There's
Yeah.
no
Right.
barrier to entry. And then
Yeah.
it's also annual renewal contract, and it gets a lot of awareness, free of charge, for free, no marketing
Yeah. Yeah.
spend.
Well, it's interesting too, Betty. I know, at our X Bar, for example, before the pandemic, that was a big
Mm,
channel for us. Like it always was a really healthy, high margin, really strong channel. And then the pandemic
mm.
hit and it like froze up. So a lot of brands that were focused on that, like, they kind of gave up because no one was in the office. And I've been wondering if people have been trying to kind of crack back into it now that people are slowly going back to offices, if there's a huge opportunity there now where all these brands kind of left and there's like a vacuum of, people going back to an office, but not a lot of brands pushing for it. So that's cool to
Mm-mm.
hear that you're working on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And just curious to know, on RX Bar, did they do it layer by layer as well? Because I know Oatly started in Starbucks and the cafeterias with the baristas, and then the baristas and the consumers liked it so much that the supermarket buyers actually approached Oatly to start distributing to supermarkets. It was a very natural progression, and we
Yeah.
started with one channel at a time.
Yeah, yeah. Our X Bar was similar. Very, very like they started off with CrossFit gyms. So that was really the beginning. And the two founders, Peter and Jared, they were literally going gym to gym in Chicago and trying to sell them in. So it really started off that way. And then they started putting themselves on shelves at like coffee shops in Chicago, like basically just at the checkout counter. Launched a website, launched Amazon, and then really built a B2B business. They started off with really a grassroots B2B business. And then, yeah, slowly but surely unlocked different retailers. And they were very methodical. I give them a lot of credit. When I joined, they already had a really tight like pricing curve
Mm.
developed, and I helped kind of like continue pushing that as we built through 2017. And that was something I learned from the team that was already there before me. It was kind of remarkable how stringent they were on pricing decisions, and I think that was inevitably a big piece of the success story. Was, you know, they said no to a lot if it wasn't right for the brand, and they were patient with price point and not going too low. That's like one of the big takeaways I would tell you that I had while I was there. Just being methodical with price points. You know, when you see a big flashy PO from a big retailer, it's easy to be like, we can give up a few points on price. This is a huge channel. But if you know, they held to their guns in a lot of ways where I think a lot of brands would have folded and taken the distribution. They kept building the business, and then those retailers would come back, and then they end up getting the price points that we ultimately wanted in a lot of cases. Story of patience,
Wow.
I would say, as much as it was timing and hard work. But yeah.
That's super strategic. Very good learning there.
Yeah, for sure. It was like getting an MBA, I always say.
Yeah.
Betty, I know we only have a few minutes left. I know we could talk a lot longer, but I always love to wind down the podcast with a couple questions that are my favorite to ask every founder that comes on here. The first one is just tools. So for you, Betty, you know, you're obviously running a fast-paced startup. How do you plan out long-term goals, yearly goals, all the way down to like your to-do list for today and ultimately the shit you're getting done today? Are you do you have apps on your computer, on your phone? Are you a pen and paper person? Do you use, you know, planners? Do you use your calendar? What tools do you put around you to ultimately achieve your goals and get shit done?
I have a very strong board. Like they have launched brands like Oatly and Vita Coco, brands that have become unicorns. So I learned a lot from them and my VCs as well. So we have something called OKR where we identify some key objectives that we want to meet every quarter, and we have milestones behind it to achieve those OKRs. And then and I would say that brands are very emotional. Like every brand that succeeded, Coca-Cola with selling happiness, not soda. Nike with just do it is selling aspiration, not shoes. So I think every brand is very emotional. Confetti is a celebration of colors. Like to me, the thing that really really drives me in the most primal way is that vision of seeing confetti come down when we ring the bell on NYSE. That vision spurs us on, to get that, we do have to break it down to achievable milestones and, set very tangible goals for ourselves. But most of the time we do exceed it. We have tripled our sales year on year for the last few years. And I think we are at a place where we have laid the foundations and it's time to just pour gasoline on the fire. And
I love that. Very cool. OKRs. I haven't heard that term in a while. I remember we did that at our X Bar. We tried to do those. Very good. It helps. I mean, having long-term plans and goalposts that you're going after, I think that's crucial. For everyone listening, I also love to ask, could you share one source of knowledge that you've learned recently? That could be a podcast you've listened to. It could be a book you've read, just something that pops in your mind right now, Betty, of something that's been really interesting that you've read recently that you think the audience that's listening would enjoy.
I would say like more magic, less logic. I think that's my philosophy in business and life as well. I think that a lot of people in this world play it very safe, and because of that, they don't take risks that would actually expand them as a human being or achieve their dreams, even though the dreams might be very scary. But if they don't do it, it really shortchanges. You only have this amount of life in this world. So I do feel like that's a philosophy I live by. More magic and less logic. And I don't think I would have started this company given the odds. 99% of startups fail within the first 5 years.
Right.
This is our 6 years now, so parsnips crossed. I do feel like I think it's it will be crazy to start something that has such a high failure rate, but it's very important to do it anyway because you never know how it would go. And things snowball along the way. You gather resources, talent, whatever you need if you really want something.
I love that. And then last question, because I know we're out of time. How can people follow along Confetti's journey? How can they follow along your journey? And what's the easiest place for people to try Confetti Snacks?
Yeah, so we have Amazon Primes. We can get confetti really easily on your doorstep anywhere in US, even Hawaii and Alaska. And then you can also follow us on social media, confettisnacks.com and Instagram and on LinkedIn as well. So yeah, very excited that we have launched nationwide in Walmart. I think that would be the most accessible national.
Love it. Awesome, Betty. Well, thank you so much for the time. It was a pleasure to meet you, and I'm pumped for you and your journey, and let's stay in touch.
Sounds good. Thanks so much.